Well, hopefully you didn't forget us over the break, but I'll repeat. I'm Sallie Dolan with the Illinois State Water Survey.
And I'm Erin Huggett.
And our main job with the private well class is we actually handle the hotline. So if you call into the private well hotline, you're most likely going to get one of us. So it's nice to have a face with that name and the voice that comes over the phone. But today we're going to talk to you and do kind of a little fun activity with the private well class, and we're going to do some trivia. How many of you in the room have watched the webinars, done the class, have been a part of it since its inception, and know everything about it? Know most about it. How's that?
I know you do.
So how many of you, this is your first time of doing anything with the private well class by attending this conference? Okay, so, and all of you in between, we've tried to do some trivia to kind of do a fun activity, get everybody livened up. You know, we had lunch, we had the drillers panel, now you've had a break, so it's nap time next, right? Well, we're gonna try and liven it up and do a little trivia. So we would like some audience participation. So we're gonna have you raise your hands at which of the answers you think is correct, and then we'll do a reveal of what we think is going on here.
All right.
So the first question that we have is, what is the private well class? Is it, raise your hand, do you think it's a curriculum for private well owners that was authored by Steve Wilson? Okay. Do we have, is it an avenue to gain knowledge through webinars, newsletters, and social media posts?
Okay, all right, all right.
Is it a hotline and help center designed to help well owners answer their questions?
Okay.
Or is it a sister program to wateroperator.org and decentralizedwastewater.org?
Yep.
Okay,
Right.
it's a trick question, okay? With the private well class, that is our curriculum. That is our 10 lessons that is going to help a well owner answer their questions and learn about their system. But our program as a whole actually is all of these things. And so we want you to know that there's more to our program than just the class. It involves all of these things.
So our next question, so who funds the private well class program? So go ahead and raise your hand if you think that it's the US EPA and the Rural Community Assistance Partnership, or RCAP. Go ahead and raise your hand if you think that's true. Raise your hand if you think it's the University of Illinois. All right. Now raise your hand if you think it's hosted by the University of Illinois while sponsored, funded, and supported by the US EPA and RCAP. Oh, that's a good sign. So yes, it is hosted by the University of Illinois while sponsored, funded, and supported by the US EPA and RCAP.
See, we do pretty good when you don't get this trick right.
You got to keep you on your toes.
So how many lessons are there in the private well class? Are there 10, 12, or 15?
10.
It's currently 10, but we are working on an 11th lesson. We're working with NAURA to create an additional lesson that will go over septic systems. So, you know, as we said in our previous talk, well owners are often also septic owners. So we're trying to combine those with a lesson. So if they do have a septic system, they can get some basic knowledge of that system as well.
All right. So here's a true or false. The private well class offers monthly webinars that are approved for 2 CEs for NEHA and Illinois LEHPs. So true, raise your hand. Okay. False, raise your hand. All right. It is actually true. So the webinars are separate from the 10 lesson class, and they go on monthly, covering different topics. We actually have one coming up later next week, all about PFAS. So definitely want to tune in for that.
One thing that I'll mention about this is we often get calls of, I watched your webinar on YouTube, can I get CEs for that? And the answer, unfortunately, is no. You do have to attend live when the webinar is going on to be able to get CEs. Okay, so what should you not do to stay current with the private well class? Should you sign up for the partner newsletter? Check out our YouTube page? Connect with us on social media? Or wait until you have a problem and then reach out for help? Okay, that's a pretty easy one for you. While we would be more than happy to help someone who waits until they have a major problem to before they reach out, we do encourage you to sign up for our partner newsletter. It goes out once a month. Check out our YouTube page. We have all of our past conferences listed. This one will go on there as well. So if there's a presentation that you really like the next couple days that you want to share with coworkers, that will be on our YouTube page. And then connect with us on social media and keep up on the latest things that we're doing and how we can help.
All right, so the next question is, how can people with questions about private wells get answers from this? And I know I answered this over the break, actually, so some of you might have a little bit of an advantage. So go ahead, raise your hands if you think you can call our hotline. Okay. What about email us? All right. Do you think you can chat with the chat bot? All right. How about search the 150 Help Center articles? Would you believe me if I said all of the above? So here's just a screenshot of our website. So you can see here the information about how to call or email us. The information is up there at the top. You can go through our Help Center and go through the articles. There are 150 articles sectioned into 9 sections based on different topics. So we've noticed that with the addition of those articles, for the more common questions, we're able to cover those without someone calling us. So now we're getting more and more interesting phone calls.
So we went over the first year. We launched the hotline on April 1st of 2024. So this goes over the first year. How many people do you think have visited our Help Center and viewed at least one article? How many think over 5,000? Over 12,000? Over 25,000? It's actually been over 25,000 individuals have come to our Help Center and looked at least one article. And then for our articles, while we have, it's now a little over 150, but they've been viewed 31,000 times. So people are getting out there, they're looking at the articles, and so we feel it's doing a really good job of impacting and giving people a good way to get information about private wells.
All right, so speaking of articles, the Help Center has over 150 articles in 9 categories. So which article do you think has been viewed the most times? So we've got 3 examples of articles. So one is, what is grouting? And why does my water well need to be grouted? So if you think that's the most viewed article, raise your hand. No. All right, so B, what is a pitless adapter and why do I need to upgrade from a well pit? Who thinks that's the most? Okay, all right. And then option C, what is a well screen and what can I do if it gets plugged? Thinks that's the most. All right, well, interestingly enough, it is our pitless adapter article. We don't really know why this is our most popular. It's significantly more popular than all of our other articles with 2,770 views. Our next most viewed is 1,657. So that's a huge jump between those 2 articles. So if any of you are the ones that go to it every day, let me know. Let me know.
So we have another true or false question. The private well class utilizes a chat bot that gathers information from sources that cannot be controlled. True or false? True? Who thinks it's true? Who thinks it's false? It is false. Say our chat bot, we've fed it the information, so it only takes the information that we've given it to answer the questions. It does a fantastic job. Sometimes it comes up with, things that you're just like, oh, wow, that's a really good point to put in there. I wouldn't have come up with that. But it does sometimes do a little lackluster, but we do have the opportunity to go in and improve the answer. So the next time someone answers it, it gives a better answer then.
All right, so our next question, of all of the people who have contacted us by phone, email, and chat, what percentage used the chat feature? Do you think it's roughly 9%? Roughly 19%? Roughly 29%? All right, so for that one, it is 19%, roughly. So 18.73% of our users that have contacted us by the chat. And again, we are able to moderate that chat, make sure that it is telling something that we can verify that is accurate.
And I will say, when we have we use a software called Intercom, and so when we have it up, it will show us these live chats that are going on. And sometimes you see one that you're like, oh, the chat's not, the bot's not going to answer this right. So you jump in, and people really freak out when you're like, are you a real person? Yes, I am. And I've had some who have left the chat because they get freaked out, but most of the time, they're really, you're real. You're a real person. Are you going to steal my information? No, I'm just here to help.
All right.
So in April of 2024, like I said, we launched the Private Well Hotline. In the last year, which of these do you think were the top 3 topics callers asked about? Can you guys read those okay? Who thinks it was A? Who thinks it was B? And who thinks it was C? It was actually A. So 37% of the calls that we got in were sampling and testing questions. Where can I go to get my well tested? We help many people from multiple states get connected with their local resource, whether it's the state agency that controls, most of them have a list of the labs that they have certified. Is it NELAC? We send them to that website, help them determine, and so we can help them get to some place that will allow testing. We have 19% that called about a specific contaminant. So my well tested high for arsenic, what can I do? I've got bacteria, what do I do? So that's 19%, and then 7% of our calls are about funding. And so we get a lot of calls of, I have to replace my well. What can I do? I'm trying to build a house, but I can't get the permits to build a house until I get funding for my well. And so we help a lot of people with funding. And then we have 9% of all of our calls that they don't nicely fit into any one category. They're very complicated, they're very involved. And so it takes many of us to try and figure out the best person to direct them to. And I see a couple of the people I rely on on a regular basis when we do get these really complicated calls.
All right, so this is probably my favorite question of the whole day. Which of these was a call received on the hotline? All right, so raise your hand if you think that this is one of the calls that we've received. We just replaced our well pump and the well water is now brown. Can I have a home water birth? My baby is due any day. All right, so that's A. B, our township is located near 4 former coal washing plants. Can you help connect us with someone who can help us perform a large-scale well water testing to see just exactly how big of a problem this is? And then C, my ex-husband purposefully contaminated my well, and I'm concerned that my neighbors' wells may also be contaminated. Who can I contact to help alert my neighbors? So this one was also a trick question. It was all of them. We've had every single one of those conversations. We've had, pretty much, actually, it's kind of interesting. We had 2 calls in 1 week about purposefully contaminated wells. And so that was the first time we've dealt with that, and we dealt with 2 in 1 week. So it's kind of interesting how that works.
And the reason we picked these 3 is because we kind of sent the people in different directions with each of those. So the home water birth, they had just replaced the well pump, and even though they had flushed and flushed and flushed, they hadn't tested the water. It was still brown. So, we sent them to, get their well tested. But in the meantime, we also connected them with midwife service in the area to see if maybe they could do a water birth there. And then her least favorite suggestion I had was, do you have a family member who's on city water where you could do a birth at their house? And she said, I am not having my baby at my mother-in-law's. And then for the coal washing plants, we actually connected them with RCAP. And so RCAP is going to be working with them to try and see how big of a testing protocol they can set up and try and help them with that. And then the ex-husband, we connected them with the local health department. So the local health department could determine if it was a big enough contamination that they did need to alert neighbors and also have those wells tested. So how many states do you think we have received calls from? Do you think it's 44 plus Ontario, Canada? All 50 states? Or 48 states plus Puerto Rico? It's actually the first one. So we have heard from 44 states and a woman from Ontario, Canada, who said, how in the world did I get connected to the United States? But we were able to, I was able to help her find her local department that handled the well water service and got her in the right direction. And now we do have, when I did this, we have 6 states. I'm happy to say that we got our first call from Delaware like a week and a half ago. So Delaware, you're off the list. Marty, however, 3 of the 6 are in your new region, so no pressure. But if you are in one of these states, I'm curious why we haven't heard. So if it's something that we can work with you to help get that information out, we would be more than happy to. Or if you know something that's available in those states, then we would also like to know where these people are going, if they're going anywhere, on what we can do to help with getting them towards the help center. How are we on top? I feel like we're short.
I've been watching.
Well, that's
You
Okay.
got 5-6 minutes?
Oh, wow. All
Okay.
right.
One last thing before we get to the questions is, with our help center, we do try to connect people with the resources that are local to them. So if you're from a state agency, if you're from RCAP, if you're from a local health department, but you know of a great program that would really help people to be directed to, please let us know. You can either email Erin or I, or you can send it to the help center. But we would love to have this information because we're trying to get the word out to let as many people know about the resources that are available. Now we can.
Could it be that I've just been doing such a great job?
It could be.
It could
Instead of
be.
you?
It could be. But if you
I
want
don't
a
know.
break, you can give them our phone number.
I've contacted you a couple times.
Okay, so we don't have very many questions this time. So what is the most unusual call you have received? Is there an oddly specific, weird, reoccurring theme?
We've got some very unusual calls. I'll have to think about what my most unusual call is.
I would say for specifically weird, reoccurring themes, we will get the same call back to back to back. So I had maybe 2 weeks ago, I got a call where the woman said, I just talked to my doctor. I'm freaked out. I'm on a well, and they said, let's test you for arsenic, and my arsenic levels are through the roof, and I'm freaked out. Am I going to get cancer? What's going to happen? And so she hadn't had her well water tested, so talked to her, kind of got her calmed down a little bit on, that let's figure out what's going on, talk to your doctor. And so just kind of talking to her and walking through it really helped her settle down where we could have a nice conversation. I hung up the phone, went to a meeting, came back, and got a call. Oh my God, I just got a call from the doctor. Both my husband and I have tested high for, it was barium, cadmium, and strontium. What do we do? And I'm like, I'm not answering the call the third time because they're just going to increasingly get worse. But same day, hours apart, one was in South Carolina, one was in Pennsylvania. So, not even connected geographically, just complete flukes.
Have you thought about? I did think of one that was particularly strange. I had this one call come in, and it was this lady who, was just desperate. She's talked to everyone she could think of and happened to find our phone number. She is a hairstylist, actually, but she decided that she wanted to do all of her own plumbing. So she called me after she had plumbed all of, her water treatment from her well to her pipes, and she was having severe problems with contamination. So she had chunks of white matter in her water coming from her taps, and she was adamant that she needed a microbiologist to come out and look at her sample basically through a microscope. That's what she wanted. So I kind of talked to her over, the course of a while, and kind of talked her down, talked to her about what it could be, what's going on, why we, try to get licensed professionals to come out and do our plumbing and make sure that we're not poisoning ourselves, because it really could be that easy that you could get some sort of really harmful bacteria in your system, and it could be super harmful for your health. And so she was actually experiencing health effects that could have been linked to the water coming from her well. So it's definitely an interesting job sometimes. Interesting phone calls come in.
So you've asked how many calls do we handle per year? When we first took over this hotline, we were told that it could be, I think it was like 300 calls a month or something like that. And we're like, oh, that's a bit overwhelming. But we are not getting near that volume. I think we just, for this year, we're just over 100 calls, which is nice because it's just Erin and I. But we think that people are going to the help center because keep in mind, we've had 25,000 people go to the help center and go that route over picking the phone up and calling us.
Most callers from a particular state, would you say?
So I actually did this calculation not too long ago. 33% of our calls come from one state, and that is Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. And the last person I talked to in Pennsylvania, they said that their state directed them to me, or their local health department directed them to me because they said that we were a great resource. And so we were able to help that. And then have there been any calls that we've had no answers? We have had answers, it's just not what they want to hear. And so whenever you have to tell someone the same thing that they've already heard, this could probably fall into my interesting call as well. Had someone from Minnesota call and say, these health regulators are just being unreasonable. You need to help me tell them why I should be able to open up this business that I want to. And he gave me this beautiful story. And so I reached out to some people that I know in the state, and Steve reached out to some people he knows into the state. And so we went boom, 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 talked to the regulator. And the regulator said, well, did he tell you that his well is 9 feet from his septic line and that they built a building over the well? He's like, I'm trying to work with the guy, but he doesn't want to follow the rules. So we're kind of, at this head to head. And so in that case, the answer we gave him was the answer he had already gotten, and he didn't like that answer.
Do you see any state level trends? I would say one state level trend, or at least region level trend, that you can kind of think about is, so for us, we live in Illinois. We're on the Mahomet Aquifer. We have plenty of groundwater, right? What you don't have out west is a lot of groundwater. So we have to kind of understand the difference between, here in Illinois and, Michigan, drilling a well is, you're gonna basically find water. It's more than likely that you're gonna hit water, especially with experienced drillers. However, in states like Wyoming or other states that are out west, it's very expensive, and you may cost, you may put in up to, $1 million even, and you might not hit well, or you might not hit water. So that is kind of one thing that you have to be aware of, especially with us being a national hotline, is that there's a lot of different, water resources and water issues that, you may not think of until somebody's on that hotline saying, hey, what do I do? So it's definitely, you gotta keep those things in mind and make sure you have those resources available for people in different sides of the country.
Steve Wilson in the back is our supervisor. So you can ask him if we're hiring. So how do we log our call topics, and do we have an FAQ? Currently, we are doing a Google Doc, and then I've been fascinated of all the statistics that you can get from a Google Doc, that it will automatically do it for you. But we've only been doing this for a little over a year now, so we're trying to figure that out and see where we're going. I'm not sure what you mean by an FAQ document. If you want to talk to me and see, I would be more than happy to, see if we do have something that would fall into that, or if it's something.
I think that's kind of like our articles. Yeah, our articles. The knowledge base. So what we went over with the articles and the different topics, that's kind of like an FAQ kind of thing, where you can just type in like a topic and say like softener or, something like that. And our resources on our website will come up with how does a softener with a well work, or that sort of thing.
So I can't speak for Erin, but I cannot type as fast as the chatbot can spit out an answer. So they know it's a human. They know that a chatbot doesn't take that long to respond. But I do just go ahead and say that I am a person. If they're not comfortable with talking to me, then they can come back at Saturday night when they know a human's not going to be in the office.
How secure does the funding for private well class look going forward?
I was going to say, I am not in the pay grade to know what federal funding looks like.
Steve's already standing up.
So thanks to Darcy, electric from Louisiana, sent me a text earlier with a link to the webpage. They just announced the technical assistance and training grant funding for EPA, which covers drinking water, wastewater, and private wells that's going to get funded. And this is RCAP getting almost all the money they requested, but we're under RCAP, and we're going to get all the funding we've had for it. It's a 2-year grant, starts October 1, so we'll at least have a 26 and 27 conference.
I think that deserves applause.
That's great news, definitely.
Let's go to Puerto Rico!
Yes! Take me with.
So for this one, the reason we went to the health department is because she had already contacted the police department. She already had the police report, a restraining order started, the legal process was going. She was just concerned about her neighbors and what to do to let them know that her well had been contaminated and they needed to check theirs. But all that had already been done by the time she contacted us.
However, we did have another one earlier that week who had also suspected a neighbor of contaminating his well. And so that was one of the things that we did suggest is saying, hey, if you are suggesting that someone is poisoning your well water, you need to go contact authorities. You need to talk to the police, and that's a really legal matter at that point, so.
Everybody?
Alrighty, thank you. Thank you. Oh, I almost left this.